your pain or experience is temporary. Remember that. Number 2, your condition or your pain experience has a purpose. Remember that. Number 3, you're not alone. You have a helper to help you walk through that. And 4th and lastly, the Bible is clear that your experience are working together for the good. So I want to start with number 1. Your experience of pain is temporary. Look at what the Apostle Paul says in verse 18. The Apostle Paul says, "For I consider that the suffering of this present time." The Apostle Paul was going through suffering. The people in Rome were going through suffering. There was persecution that was happening. This is not just about religious persecution. We know from the context that that's part of it, but he talks about pain in general that we're going through. And he says, I want you to know that what you're going through right now, whatever you're going through, no matter how intense, how debilitating, how long it's been, that the sufferings of the present time are not worth comparing with the glory that is to be revealed. The word that he used when he says consider, it's a banking term, it's a commercial term. When people would take scales, they would put on one side of the scale a certain merchandise, and another side of the scale, another weight to balance it out. And what he's saying is that if you were to put on one side of the scale all the suffering, all the pain, all the difficulty that you're going through currently right now at this stage of your life, and you were to put on the other side the glory of what's to come, the pleasure, the happiness, the eternal bliss that is awaiting you, that there's not even a comparison, that the weight of what awaits you in heaven is so much greater that it makes your current suffering feel and look as almost nothing. So he's reminding us that, hey, whatever you're going through right now, whatever you may be experiencing right now, I want you to remember that it has a timeline to it. It won't be forever. It will end. It's not going to go on eternally, and it's nothing compared to what awaits you in the future. I believe that sometimes in the middle of our pain, what makes us become hopeless is when we think our pain is not going to end. What makes us feel desperate is when we feel that there's no end in sight, that it's going to go on and on and on and on and on and on, and there's no end. I've talked to people that have wrestled with suicidal thoughts or have been on the edge of suicide, and the common thread that I see is hopelessness. And typically, it's pain that they're experiencing, and when they look through the long tunnel, they see no light at the end of the tunnel. And so a darkness overcomes them, where they start feeling, I can't live like this forever. I don't see an end to my pain, and I think I'd rather just end it all than continue to live like this year after year after year. There's a hopelessness, a darkness that sets in that makes us think this will never come to an end. Can I tell you something? The Apostle Paul is reminding us that your life is short, that eternity is long, that there's a temporal nature to what you're experiencing right now, that no matter how overwhelmed you may seem right now, compared to glory, it's really nothing. Compared to what happens in the future, it feels long right now, but it's very, very short. Some of you in this room have given birth to children. And you know, well, I've heard, I've watched my wife, and I've heard it said, I've never experienced a pain so intense as childbearing. Can we give it up for all the mothers in the place here today? But I've been to 3 births of my children, and I'll never forget the nurse, the doctors, or even myself reminding my wife in the middle of this intense pain, very intense pain. I'll never forget saying, hey, it's almost there. Just a little bit more. I'll never forget the doctor saying, just a little bit more. Why does the doctor keep saying that? Why does the nurse say, hey, it's almost done. Keep pushing, just a little more. You know what the doctor says that? Because someone becomes overwhelmed by the thought of, this is very long. I can't do this. I can't keep pushing. The pain is too intense. I need to know that it's close. And so we remind people in the midst of severe pain that this too has an end to it. Don't despair. Don't grow weary because there's an end to this. The Apostle Paul is telling us that, hey, there is an end. It's not forever. Remember that. And the Bible says that, he says that, for consider the sufferings of this present time are not worthy compared to the glory that is going to be revealed to us.